And good morning, everybody. Welcome, Hot Takes Goodman and Haertl. Bruce, you are joining us live from Las Vegas. Welcome to the show after probably a big night of raving and partying and getting bottle service at Aria.
No, we didn't do that. We went and ate vegan. That was the level of excitement for us. But we had a really nice night after a nice, calm, collected football game to watch. We actually watched the Broncos get out in front. Yep. Really never have to play in rough air at all, which was kind of a nice change of pace.
Well, we certainly have a lot to cover this morning. Let's start with the Chiefs. Ding dong, the witch is dead. The AFC West is out of reach for the Chiefs. For the first time in the history of Denver sports, the Nuggets, Avs, and Broncos all played on the same day and won, which is incredible to think about. And, of course, the number one college football team in the country is Indiana, but I digress. With that, I want to tell you about the Sportsbook Bar and Grill. What a great place to watch games. You can watch the college football playoff and watch Indiana make another run if you want to. You can watch the Broncos make a run towards a Super Bowl. You can watch the Nuggets make a run for a championship. You can watch the Avalanche make a run for a championship with outstanding food, great service, and an atmosphere that is set up like a sports bar that you would design if you owned a bar, because the owners, Judson and Jeremy, they are huge sports fans, and they set up the Sportsbook Bar and Grill the way I think you would set it up. And they have three great locations: the DTC, Highlands Ranch, and Parker. Time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Sasquatch Casino, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Bruce, you kind of teased it off the top.
I was wondering how long it would take to get to Indiana. I thought about you this weekend watching that game, thinking, my God, Indiana not only is going to beat Ohio State, they can win the college football championship. Indiana looks the part, my friend.
Well, I'll put it to you this way, Bruce. I knew Indiana was terrific offensively and defensively. I've watched enough games to know that. I did not know how the Hoosiers defense would hold up against Ohio State's offense. Mission accomplished. But let's get into the Broncos, because no one wants to hear me talk about Indiana Hoosiers football. And you can make the case that no one has really wanted to hear about Indiana football over the last 100 years. But I digress. This Broncos game yesterday against the Raiders, there have been a lot of people thinking the sky is falling. I don't want to say that I'm part of that group, but every game was close, every game a one-score game. It feels like so on and so forth. But they handled their business. They handled the Raiders. The final score certainly not as close as what it would, seem to be. Ask anybody who, took the Broncos and laid the 7.5 points. Ask anybody who bet the over-under and took the under. And then we saw the end of the game and millions of dollars flip. But from a media and a fan perspective, was this the type of game the Broncos needed to make you say, okay, at least they can win one that looks somewhat easy?
Yeah, it was very businesslike. There was never really any stress. There was never really any doubt. I thought that they were just very matter of fact about their business. I'm not so sure the most impressive thing yesterday wasn't feeling like we were at Empower Field, Mile High West. Yep. It was a remarkably Broncos crowd. I mean, it really was impressive. And I thought that they played well. I thought in all phases, obviously, when you get, and Sean pointed it out afterwards, when you get a special teams or a defensive touchdown, your chances to win go up exponentially. Even without that, there was never really much doubt. I thought all three phases really played well most of the time, spectacularly some of the time, and they handled the Raiders the way that they should handle the Raiders. Now things get really interesting for the next 4 weeks.
Let's look at the offense specifically. J.K. Dobbins, who knows when he's going to come back. RJ Harvey looked like an RB1, didn't he? Running the ball, catching the ball, yards per carry.
Yes, he did.
The offense sustained drives, a pair of them went 14 plays. Heck, the opening one chewed 9 minutes off the clock. Are you feeling any better about this offense today than you did before the game yesterday? Or was it the Raiders?
I think you do.
They're not very good
feel
defensively.
better. Yeah. Well, they aren't. I mean, that's a fact, but you still got to go out and execute. And that's what you and I have been looking for is, God, just go out and execute. You don't have to, and Bo was complaining about a lack of explosive plays yesterday, understandably so, but they were able to do the things needed against a team that plays a deeper zone. So everything is left to play in front of them, and they were able to exploit that. They did it without penalizing themselves. They did a few times, but by and large, they played fairly clean football. They were able to run the ball on first down and second down. So they weren't in long situations in third down. The couple of times that they were able to make plays. So it was about as I thought it was as the most efficient game that I have seen them play. Dallas was like an explosive game, but from just a standpoint of being efficient in the offense, efficient with the defense, making good plays on special teams. It was a remarkably efficient effort against a team, frankly, they should have been able to do this against. But you know what? It's one more bit of demonstrated ability that we hadn't seen even through this really good run all season to this point. So, yeah, I thought there was progress made yesterday.
Okay, let's look ahead. And what I mean by that is, to me, the Raiders were nothing more than a small speed bump. I don't think we need to dig too far into this game, offense, defense, special teams, although it is pretty amazing to think that Marvin Mims is considered the best punt returner in the game, and he had never returned one for a touchdown, and he did. And that certainly played a major role in the game, making the score 14-7, and the Broncos never looked back from there. But looking big picture right now, the Colts are no longer a threat. Daniel Jones is now out for the season with a torn Achilles. So now it's just a two-team race for the top spot in the AFC, and the Broncos have the leg up because they hold the tiebreak over the Pats moving forward. So 4 games to play. I think the Broncos have the more difficult schedule over the Patriots moving forward, starting with the Packers, now the best team in the NFC North. How good do you feel, final 4 games, about the Broncos securing that number 1 seed? Where fans don't have to travel anymore. Fans don't have to go. If everything works out the way you hope it works out, fans will not have to go to New England to go watch a game. The Broncos fans will not have to travel except to Santa Clara, which is the final destination anyway.
Yeah. I would say my level of confidence right now is fairly good because 3 of the 4 games are at home. And I know they're playing very good teams during those games. I don't know if Jacksonville is a very good team. They're a good team. I mean, they're 9-4. It's hard to argue with the record if you believe that it's that's what they are, 9-4. All right. But I think the Broncos are going to be a remarkably hard out at home. And I don't know what Kansas City is going to look like on Christmas. The Chiefs may be done and cooked. They are in the AFC West. They would certainly at this particular point, and I've read a couple of things this morning trying to make sense of the path that they have. It is at best disjointed. They would have to sweep and get help from a couple of other teams losing not one game, but multiple games to even reach the playoffs. So, yes, the Broncos have Green Bay, Jacksonville, Kansas City on the road, and the Chargers. Just take care of your business. And I do think that the Bills, New England does have the Bills. So you're a big Josh Allen fan probably during that one, because that one would give you a little bit of latitude to drop one of these 4 games and still come away with the top seed.
Okay, looking at the Broncos' opponents moving forward, you have the Packers, the Chiefs, and the Jaguars, and the Chargers. 3 of those teams have a very good chance of making the playoffs. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Do you like the way this schedule sets up for the Broncos heading into the playoffs, or would you rather it be 4 teams that are not going to make the playoffs? For me, I'll start first on this.
Yeah.
As someone who is competitive, I don't want weak opponents. I want to know I've beaten your best, me personally, because, we've talked about the 1-score games and the close games and things like this. To me, the final 4 weeks are the ultimate tune-up for the Broncos to show they can beat the better teams. And quite frankly, in these cases, I don't care how they win. I don't care if it's a last-second field goal. I don't care if it's a 33-point comeback in the 4th quarter, because the teams that they've done that against, many of the teams are not going to make the playoffs. I want this team to be as fully tested heading into the playoffs against playoff teams instead of teams that we know they can roll over. And then we're wondering, game 1 of the playoffs, can they beat a good team? And they beat some good teams this year. Listen, the Eagles are obviously a good team. The Chiefs are not certainly what they used to be. I get that. But they've had some impressive wins this year. Not a lot. Yeah. 3 of their final 4 games, every win to me would be impressive.
Yeah, I think the Texans win too was a good win for this football team. But I agree with you 100%. I agree with you right down the line. I think this is the best possible schedule for the Broncos to have. They've got everything in front of them, and they control their destiny with 4 weeks left. They are the top seed in the AFC with 4 weeks left, and play 3 of their last 4 games at home, where they have the longest winning streak in the National Football League. I'll take it a step further. This is where a team matures. This is where a team gets that playoff edge. This is where a team gets that confidence against good people to go into the postseason and play those types of games that are more than likely going to be like a lot of the games that they've played this season. Close, 1-score games at the end, things like that. Those are the things that I think that this team can grow with in the last 4 weeks. And I like the fact that there's still some meat on the bone. There's still something to play for. You're chasing that number 1 seed and home field advantage that goes with it. So there is pressure on you to perform and to win and to look, they're not going to be worse than the 2nd seed in the AFC. But let's face it, if you're going to be 2nd, why not be 1st? Because then you're home. You got the bye and you're home. I love the fact that there's
Wait a minute. Whoa. I hate to go all Lee Corso on you here. If the Broncos lose to the Packers, who's next?
Jacksonville.
And what if they lose 2 games in a row? Jacksonville will have the number 2 seed.
Yeah, well, yes, okay.
Yes, that's my point.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Right.
There's a lot.
I mean, yeah,
there's a lot. There's a lot of meat on the bone.
But my meat on the bone is, can this team take the next level of maturity and close with authority? If you can close, not to sound Glenn Ross too much here, but if you can close here down the stretch, think about how much better this team is going to be going into the postseason. You've already touched upon it. Just win the games,
Yeah.
right? Just win the games. But you're going to have to play well to just win the games because you're playing against good teams, good coaches, teams that have something on the line, teams that'll be playing for a purpose. I mean, so I love the next 4 weeks. And you know what, Eric? Talking to those guys yesterday in the locker room, so do they. I mean, Nick Bonito was like, can't wait to play these games. Mike McGlinchey, this is what you play for. You get into these situations. This is where you test yourself and find out who you are. Don't want to sound overly silly about the whole thing, but that's where this football team is.
Here's what's funny. The guys in the locker room believe they are the best team in football. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. You know who doesn't believe? Not that it really matters to anybody in the locker room. You know who doesn't believe the Broncos are the best team in football? Vegas. They are underdogs at home against the Packers by 1.5 points. I love it too. I was just floored. How many teams in the history of the NFL this late in the season with a 10-game winning streak and the best record in football are home underdogs? I can't imagine that has ever happened.
No. And home underdogs with what? A 10, 11, 12, whatever the winning streak at home is. A 10-game winning streak at home. Well, at home, I think it's 11, maybe. Whatever the number is.
In general.
The Broncos have been very difficult to beat at home. So it's a striking number. I did a double take when I saw the early posting of it. But you know what? I can't imagine that's not the best thing in the world for this team to have going into this week of preparation.
I mean, the Packers are the third best team in football right now, record-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Third best team. So having nothing to do with the point spread, this is the matchup that you want to see if you want to see how good your team is. Then again, if you're the Packers, I would be thinking, I want to see how good we are going on the road against a Denver team that has won 10 games in a row. So
how many times do you think, excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off. How many times do you think we will hear the description of this matchup as a potential Super Bowl preview? I think it's a very real thing to say a month out, right?
I mean,
agree. Why not?
Yep.
I think.
I mean, who are the four best teams in football right now if you pick two from each conference? It's the Broncos and the Patriots.
Yes.
I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC.
Yes. Yeah.
And then
I do too.
And then they'll probably, you would think, or possibly play the Packers. That could be your final four. So why not see where you're at right now? Not that the schedule makers put it together this way, but I love the fact that they're going to be playing the Packers. I love the fact that they have to go to Kansas City, even if Kansas City is out of it. Now, how many teams have beaten Kansas City in Kansas City this year? Probably more teams have beaten Kansas City at Arrowhead this year than what feels like the last 10 years combined, doesn't it? Love that.
Sure.
Chargers are still in the hunt despite all of their injuries. And then you're thinking, where the hell has Jacksonville come from?
Right. It is absolutely fantastic. You can't have the only way you could have a better situation, it would be to be about a game or two games clear of New England, right? And have a little cushion. But that's giving this team too much of a fallback. You want this team to continue to move forward. They took a step in that direction, albeit against a bad team yesterday, but they did it on the road, yada, yada, yada. You know the routine. They need now in the next 4 weeks to continue to take steps, which they have done all season long. If they do that now and get to this thing at 15-2 or 14-3 and have home field advantage, we could be in for a very special ride in the month of January into February even. And I've been very hesitant to start talking about it in those terms. But, this is kind of where they are. And it's where they put themselves.
Coming up after the break, we can continue to talk about the Broncos, or we can talk about what has become the biggest national story over the last 24 hours, and maybe one of the biggest national stories of the year as we get ready to close out 2025. Did the College Football Playoff Committee get it right? Did Notre Dame get screwed? That's next.
Ferguson's Heating and Cooling is the best in Denver, and their customers agree. Ferguson's has 165 five-star Google reviews, and here's one from Betsy. Highly professional, prompt, and honest. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware my former company was trying to sell me a whole new system I didn't need. Ferguson's is an honest, working, family-owned business that'll give you a fair price, the highest quality parts and equipment, and they always show up on time. You can trust the Ferguson family like you trust your own family. Go to fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. All their locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook, great hangout bar, great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. They are the sports bar.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. Don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corned bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a Ford Maverick Tremor truck or over $25,000 in cash the weekend of October 24th. Daily cash drawings are every 45 minutes between 10 a.m. and midnight. Players can earn daily entries with every locked-up jackpot or by redeeming players' points on their players' cards. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, phenomenal promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
And welcome back. Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl. Time now for What's Trending.
What's Trending is presented by Ferguson's Heating and Cooling. Your family should trust the Ferguson family for all your heating and cooling needs, and you'll see why they have over 165 five-star Google reviews. Make an appointment today at fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
College football playoff is set. Notre Dame not in. Tulane, James Madison, they do get in. Tulane got in because they were a top 4 conference champion. And then James Madison gets in. When the College Football Committee set the rules, do you think in hindsight they got it right by allowing James Madison in over Notre Dame?
The human element of anything like we have is still nothing more than a glorified beauty show. Really. I mean, it's a pageant.
Am I getting it right, by the way? Hold on, Bruce. Bruce, am I getting it right? Tulane was going to get in, correct? Because they were the highest conference champion. James Madison, I'm sorry. It should have been Notre Dame. Everyone's looking at Miami. It really should be James Madison, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I think you can make that argument. Certainly, I would listen to it. It would make sense. I don't think anyone would push back against it. But even when
did James, I should have talked about this with you off air because maybe I'm going to sound like a schmuck. James Madison
Never.
should not have automatically qualified. They were an at-large, weren't they?
No, there's the top ranked team from the and I haven't gotten,
or is it the top 5
digestible.
conferences?
It's the top 5 it's from the outside of the 3 majors, the 4 majors. Then you have the top ranked team from that group of 5 that gets in. So the argument really isn't about Notre Dame or James Madison. The argument actually does come back to, or Tulane for that matter, because those were the things that were set out by the committee. And we understand that those teams were going to get in one way or the other. So you're actually talking about the argument of the top 10 teams, because there's 12 in the playoffs. So the top 10 teams. And what are we ending up arguing about? Always the last couple of teams, right? We do it in the NCAA basketball tournament. Who was the last one out? Well, their argument is better than the team that was the last one in. And you have your arguments. That's part of the human element. And Eric, there was a time after 4 weeks of this thing that Miami was ranked 8 spots ahead of Notre Dame, because they had beaten Notre Dame and they had started the season. They had started the season well, and then at the end of the season, they had still the same records, the same resume, but Notre Dame ended up being ahead of Miami, even though Miami had beaten Notre Dame earlier in the season. So, I mean, my head started spinning when I was starting to think about all of these things. But you know what it gets back to? It just gets back to, which way do people that are on the committee, what are their prejudices? I think I got that right.
Prejudices, yeah.
Right, thank you. I think I got that right. Which way do they lean? What conference are they from? What's their experience? Anytime that you're going to have the human condition involved in decision makings like this, you're going to have an emotional quality to the decisions that are made. Even with all of the metrics and the information that these people have at their disposal, there is going to be an argument at the end of it, whether there are 2 teams, 4 teams, 10 teams, 12 teams, 25. I don't know. It doesn't make any difference. You're always going to have these kinds of arguments. I will say this: the college football playoff is better now than what it used to be, because you at least have teams. You have a chance for teams to prove it on the field. And yes, we can listen to the arguments about SEC should have this many, Big Ten should have this many in, and I would listen to all of that. But this is a much better situation than what we have had in the past, in my opinion.
And it will improve next year, because Notre Dame will get in as long as they are a top 12 ranked team. That's the rules change for next year. We're not going to have this conversation about Notre Dame next year, because next year they will have made it based on the criteria of this year. People will argue with me when I say this. Notre Dame is a national product and wants to capitalize on that by making as much money as possible. Good for them. They have the NBC contract. NBC, pays them a lot of money. And I understand money rules, right? However, Notre Dame is part of the ACC in everything except for football. So Notre Dame can keep that NBC contract. They want it both ways. They want to be included, right, in the playoff, but they don't want to have to give up the money. Sorry. You made a decision to not join a conference in football, and you just happen to be left on the side of the road. Shit happens, man. I can promise you, if Notre Dame was part of the ACC, they would be in the playoff today. If they were part of the Big Ten, they'd be part of the playoff today. When you look at future schedules, and certainly including the schedule this year, who did Notre Dame beat this year. I understand they started with Miami and Texas A&M. Bottom line is they lost. So who did they beat this year of any value? They beaten one team in the top 25, USC, the fourth or fifth best team in the Big Ten. That's what they accomplished. That's it. When they beat Pitt, Pitt was ranked at the time. They're no longer ranked anymore. They lost to A&M. A&M's a really good football team, right? Ranked behind Ole Miss, ranked behind Georgia. I don't remember A&M being in the SEC championship game. Alabama was ahead of them. So you can make the case. They beat the fourth best team in the SEC. Excuse me, they lost to the fourth best team in the SEC and beat the fifth best team in the Big Ten. If you go into conference play, you're going to have to face, I can't believe I'm saying this, an Indiana, an Ohio State, an Oregon, or an Ohio State, an Oregon, an Indiana, or a Michigan. You'd have to beat one of those teams. They didn't play any of them. They played the fifth best team and did beat them, and good for them, and that's a rivalry game. But was their schedule tough? Yeah, I suppose, but not like a conference schedule in the SEC and the Big Ten.
No, absolutely not. No, in fact, frankly, not even like the Big 12. I mean, when you're in a conference like that and you have familiarity and you play systems and coaches every year, there's a totally different kind of familiarity and stake that you have in conference games. It's just, it's the way it is. You're right. Notre Dame wants to bake its cake and eat it. And okay, fine. They get to do that most of the time, but it didn't work out for them in this situation. And frankly, I didn't have much of a problem with it. I mean, when I started getting into it, I got the argument, but you laid it out very nicely. When you really look at who they beat, when they beat them, how they beat them, there was one good win on their schedule. The USC win was a pretty good one, but USC's not in this. They're not in this tournament. They're not in this playoff. They're playing TCU in some bowl in Texas, I think. Or I mean, I don't know. So I've got no problem with Notre Dame not being a part of the mix. And that's not a preference thing. I have nothing against Notre Dame. I'm fine with Notre Dame if I can look at their body of work and say they deserve to be there. Can you make the argument they deserve to be there? I guess you could make the argument, but you could certainly make an argument for them to be left out, and they were left out. Okay, you know what? The world's going to continue to spin.
I'm going to use Indiana as my example. Indiana did not have to play Michigan this year. It's great. I'm glad they didn't have to play them. Michigan's a good team. But you know what they did do? They had to go to Oregon and win. They did. They had to beat Ohio State on a neutral field. That's what happens when you play in a conference. Yeah. You're not going to get lucky where you avoid all the good teams. And Oregon and Ohio State are both going to be playing for a national championship. Notre Dame's schedule traditionally plays some really tough teams. The problem is the two toughest teams they played, they lost to.
Yeah.
And whether it's the beginning of the season or the end of the season, they lost, period. And when you look at their schedule, okay, they beat USC, and that was pretty much it. Now, let's dive a little deeper. Notre Dame says we're not going to play in a bowl game. Kansas State is not going to play in a bowl game. Iowa State is not going to play in a bowl game. Then, because a bunch of teams who are bowl eligible do not want to play in a bowl game, they've had to go down to 5 and 7 teams. And a bunch of 5 and 7 teams, they don't want to play in bowl games. And when you look at, I don't know, when you look at guys wanting to go pro, playing in a meaningless bowl game, they don't want to play either. Are bowl games essentially done?
I don't know if they're essentially done. They have to they'll have to shift to make the model work, because here's the problem right now, Eric, and you put your finger right on it. There's no incentive for these teams to go to bowl games when they are basically stripped down versions of themselves. The teams that you talked about are all decent teams, but wouldn't have a lot of the people that they played with during the regular season. So now you're going into a bowl game with players that haven't played all season long, or haven't played enough all season long to really been a part of the team that made themselves bowl eligible. So you're right. We're starting to see a trend now with NIL and portal and the way that teams are gathered now, where you see coaches leave. I mean, coaches are leaving now before their team. I mean, we saw it with Mississippi and LSU, right? You've got coaches leaving, and that's with a team that's in the playoff, for God's sakes. So you've got all of these inequities right now that make it really hard to make teams want to go play in a game, with all due respect, that pits a 6-6 Big 12 team against a 8-win team from Conference USA. You don't really gain much from that. And so your question is, on a larger scale, are bowl games kind of a thing of the past in their current state? Yes, yeah. I think they are.
Okay, I want to address, because I want to get to Shedeur Sanders as well.
Okay,
but I want to take a step back on this whole Notre Dame thing. There are a lot of people that believe, specifically Irish fans, who believe that the reason why Notre Dame did not get into the college football playoff is because of ESPN. ESPN has contracts with the SEC and the ACC, and they got a piece of the Big Ten as well. And this was, an FU to Notre Dame. All these conferences would love to have Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't want to join a conference in football because they want their NBC money. And this was a message to Notre Dame. You want in, you got to join a conference. I'm going to give that a little pushback before I hear what you have to say. If those conferences and ESPN were going to give Notre Dame pushback by, making their own money through NBC, then they never would have agreed to what is coming next year, which is Notre Dame, top 12 team, you're automatically in. I just cannot imagine, and I could be wrong on this, and maybe I'm naive, and that's cool if you believe I am, that you had guys sitting around the table from all different conferences, not the SEC and not the ACC, saying from other conferences, we're going to stick it to Notre Dame. Because that's the theory that is out there. ESPN drove this. And honestly, I suppose that is a possibility, but even I am not that cynical that all 12 people, however many people around the table, did this. The mistake that the committee made was week after week they had Notre Dame ahead of Miami, and they never should have. They set the table for this controversy. Miami never should have been behind Notre Dame in any of the weekly rankings. They screwed themselves, and they brought this on themselves for this type of argument that ESPN pushed Notre Dame out.
We live in a time of the ripest conspiracy theories maybe ever. This is kind of how we are now politically, and it seeps down into everything. There's no trust. There's no trust in the integrity of things. And so it shouldn't surprise everyone or anyone that we have this kind of pushback right now, conspiracy, all of that. Look, it is what it is. It's the system that they have decided that right now is making these decisions, and I'm fine with it. I'm sorry that Notre Dame got caught in the toe, but that's just kind of the way it goes. And someone is going to be in that part of the discussion every single time that we have a discussion like this. It just happens to be Notre Dame this time. Sorry, but the playoff will continue.
Okay, Shedeur Sanders had a box score that would make any Hall of Famer blush. All right? 364 yards, 3 touchdown passes, led the Browns in rushing, and also ran for a TD. He was unbelievable. He had the best game of any quarterback against the Titans this year. And the Titans have played some pretty good opponents. He was terrific. And here comes the Sanders cult. And they were out in full force yesterday. I hope Shedeur Sanders is a huge success. I hope he sticks it to every team that passed on him. But I feel like we are living the Colorado TCU game all over again. Do you believe me now? Do you believe me now?
Yeah.
Do you believe in us now? It's one game. Before you make pronouncements, everybody fucked up. Let's see a little bit more history, please. Please.
Yeah, that's beyond reasonable. It's the sensible thing to do. We don't have enough work to really look at and say, okay, this is the way it's trending. He's made 3 starts now, none of them against very good football teams. He's played very well in one of those games. He's had mixed reviews in the others. Look, I think Shedeur Sanders is exactly what Shedeur Sanders was at Colorado. I think that he is a very accurate passer. He's got great athleticism. He can certainly create with his feet. He has found a way to not take sacks at this particular point. He did in his opening game, but since then he's done a good job, not taking sacks. So he has made progress. The progress is, he's 2-1 as a starter. I think I've got my record right. He's 2-1 as a starter. Consider the teams that they've beaten to get to 2-1 and get more information on Shedeur Sanders. What did he say after week 1? Well, look at what I looked like then, and what would it look like with me, with a full summer of me being the number 1 guy? Okay, maybe he'll get that chance. Maybe he will. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Is he earning that? I guess. I guess he's getting to that point, but I need to see more.
Well,
I don't think that you can make. Yeah, go ahead.
The Browns have the 6th overall pick in the draft as it stands today. We're about to find out what the Browns think of Shedeur Sanders. And I'm guessing it's going to be without Kevin Stefanski. I don't think Kevin Stefanski survives this season.
I would say that that's absolutely correct. We are going to find out whether they're ready to go with a 5th round draft choice, right? A 5th round draft choice that they see something in. But you're right. They're going to do it probably with a new head coach, a lot of moving parts in Cleveland. But great effort yesterday, and he was fun to watch.
He was. That's going to do it for us. Hot Takes with Goodman and Haertl. Make it the best possible day you can.